I am excited to be talking to Dr. Cam today, who is also a friend of mine. So, this is an extra special episode. Dr. Cam Caswell, the teen translator, is an adolescent psychologist, parenting coach, TEDx speaker, and the host of the Parenting Teens with Dr. Cam podcast. With over 20 years of experience and a teen of her own, Dr. Cam combines professional expertise with personal insight to help parents stop that yelling, start connecting more, and rebuild that trust at home. With over 330,000 followers on Instagram, she is a trusted voice for parents who want practical, compassionate support, not more guilt, because we all know we don't need any more of it. Her mission is to empower parents, uplift teens, and transform families. All right, let's get into it. Welcome, Dr. Cam, to the Autism ADHD Podcast.
Thanks for having me, Holly.
Let me gush on her. Everyone. She's amazing. Not only do I love her professionally, I love her personally.
Aw, thanks. You're making me blush.
Believe me, I would not say that.
I know you well enough to know that you would not say that if you
I know. It's 110%. Okay, so we're going to talk about just this dread that comes with chores.
Yeah.
Why don't we start with why this is so hard? Because it's not just, I want my kid to do chores that they should, or, why don't they? Or it's deeper.
It is a lot deeper on both sides.
On both sides.
Let's unpack first why it's so meaningful and important to us as parents. Because this is where we start getting a little panicky and annoyed and frustrated when our kids don't do them. Because to us, we've been taught that doing chores is how we build responsibility and respect. That's it. So if we don't teach them chores, how are we teaching them to be responsible adults? We equate the two.
Exactly.
And so we see our kids resisting chores and our mind goes way into the future going, my child is going to be lazy. And here's what I hear a lot of parents say. And it kind of cracks me up because if you step back and think about it, it's a little silly. And I've thought it myself. So it's not like I'm telling other people they're silly and I'm not. I am too. But we think, well, I don't want them to go into the future and have a spouse or a roommate and be messy and annoy the roommate. And we're like, so we are basically putting some random person that doesn't exist, personal comfort over our current need and relationship with our teen. That's what we're doing.
I appreciate your vulnerability because I have also thought that. And I probably said it at some point, which you know what you know when you know it. And you say things that you regret when you're super stressed as a parent, right?
Yeah.
It feels silly when you're not in the moment because putting somebody who may not exist, who may never even come in their life above your own child. It's easy to do because it's based on fear. We are scared to death. We are scared.
Who am I raising? What are people going to think of the person I raised? Which in that entire sentence has nothing to do with your child. The only two people of concern in that belief is you and what people will think of you raising a child and this other random person that doesn't even exist and what they think of me. I'm worried about what you think of me.
Even if they're not random, right? Because it could be like a grandparent. It could be whoever.
True.
Well, you shouldn't be doing that. They should be doing that.
And now we're again worried about what they think of me. And yes, what they think of my child. And that's part of it too. Like, I don't want them thinking my child is messy or lazy. But if I know my child's not messy or lazy, that's not going to impact me as much. But if I'm afraid that they are messy and lazy and you say that, then that hits me hard. And I can't have that. So we have so much pressure and expectations around chores, and we have so much weighing on them doing chores and doing them, not only doing them, but doing them without asking and doing them as though they love doing them and are happy about doing them and don't push back about doing them. Like we have, and I'm sorry, I don't do chores with a happy, yay, I get to do chores. No, we have expectations on our kids that is, when we step back, extraordinarily unrealistic and not even fair because we don't have the same expectations on ourselves as we do on our kids. Can I kind of walk through the feeling that our kids have when we step through and do their chores?
Yes, but I also want to say
Okay.
one more thing. When we're talking about therapists working with a family, consider how the parent was parented. I don't know if my dad's listening to this right now, but growing up, like it did not matter. You were not allowed to question if this was going to be hard or what you found difficult about it or sensory wise, it was hard. It was, you're going to do what I tell you to do, because if you don't, then you're lazy or irresponsible. I'm sure that was how he was parented too. So you have that. I don't want people to think I'm a bad parent. And I also don't want my kid to think they're lazy, but maybe I sort of think they might be lazy,
Yeah.
not because I want to think that, but because I was raised in this way. It's my default thought.
Here's the thing that we keep measuring success on as parents, and that is, will my child comply with what I ask them to do? Are they behaving the way I want them to behave? Are they doing the chores and are they doing it the way I want them to do it with the attitude I want them to do it? We're chasing compliance, right? And that's what our parents did with us. But I want you to stop for a second. Even when you complied, because same thing, I did a lot of chores. I had to clean my bathroom, I had to do all the leaves in the yard and weed, like tons of chores. And I used to look at all of my friends out there playing, and I would envision me literally as Cinderella and think, I resent my mom. I resent these chores. Am I doing them? Am I complying? Absolutely. Am I internalizing being responsible? No. I'm internalizing I am never going to have to weed a garden once I'm adult ever again.
You sure found out what you didn't want to do.
I certainly did. So I was not internalizing responsibility. I was internalizing resentment, and I was internalizing trying to figure out how to get away with not having to do this, how to avoid having to do this. Yeah.
Same. And when you have a neurodivergent kid, it becomes even more difficult. Why on earth would they ever want to do a chore?
Yeah. So I think what's important, because parents are listening going, what? So I don't have them do chores. I don't just let them do nothing. It that's the other extreme, right? We're talking extremes. There is a middle ground where we absolutely actually use chores to teach responsibility. And it's not whether or not you have them do it, it's how you have them do it. It's what your focus is. Is your focus on just getting them to comply and do it the way you want them to do it? Or is your focus to build up a sense of accomplishment, to build up a sense of ownership, to build up a sense of responsibility? Yeah. But we don't
Yes.
do that through compliance. That is not the same thing, and it is counter often to it.
Because again, we default back to that fear. Like if they don't do this, then they're not going to be a responsible adult. If they don't do this, then I'm a bad parent, right?
Correct.
So really stepping back and looking at it from a lot of different angles, and I love to do that, Cam, and so do you, is being curious about why they may not want to do it.
Yeah.
We don't do that enough. I think it's like, do that. If you didn't do that, then you're irresponsible or you're not wanting to help me
Yeah,
or
we make very
whatever.
broad and very inaccurate assumptions, which then we react to. And that's where it comes to the consequences and the nagging and the blah, 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 blah. And I get it, because when they do the chore and finally get it, we feel relief. They finally did it. We see that's instant gratification for us. They did it. I succeeded. Check it off. But what are we actually teaching them in the long run? Not anything we want to actually be teaching them. So we get instant gratification, but long term, we're making our lives way harder, actually, because we're building more resistance for the next time.
That's true with chores. What I find is when you step back and look at it in parts and you find their preferences and you identify all of these steps and realize there are gazillion steps in so many chores that we don't even think about. You have to think about the sensory parts of all of those things, the smells, the touches, the timing of the day is hard. But I love that you and I started out with recognizing that we say we're trying to teach responsibility, but it's really, again, not about that.
Well, I don't think we think deep enough because we tend to equate what we see, the external behavior, as internalizing. And we're not realizing they're not internalizing what we're seeing does not equate to that. And I think that's a hard part. The other thing is parents, the argument parents make as well in a job, they're not going to like care about your sensory issues. And when in real life, this isn't going to happen. But what we have to understand is right now we're developing the skill, right? So we're teaching them how to figure out in the real world when something is hard for them, how to figure out how to do it anyway. And we don't teach that, but just making them do it. Them the skill now, and we need to teach the skill, not just punish them for not having the skill, because then they go into the real world and they're going to have the same issues.
Chores are actually really awesome in a lot of ways because
Chores are
we can
great.
see how they learn. We can help them learn how they learn.
Yeah.
We can help support their communication of their thoughts and their feelings and what they need and self-advocacy.
Right.
Like, chores are actually really awesome way to help support our kids.
They are just a huge opportunity to learn so many different lessons. The problem is we tend to do them, address them in a way that teaches them the lessons we don't actually want to be teaching them. And we miss the opportunity to use them to teach what we actually want to teach them.
And then there's all this shame attached to them, like you're bad if you don't do this, or you're bad because you tried and you didn't do it well.
Oh, that's the worst. Yeah. You did it, you didn't do it well enough, so I'm going to point out all the things you did wrong, and I'm not going to let you get away with doing it poorly. And so does that encourage them to want to do it again? Would it encourage you to want to do better next time, or would it encourage you to say, I'm not going to even bother?
Those of you who are regular listeners, you may have heard me say this before. I will say that chores like the cleaning, probably one of the worst parts of my childhood. It sounds dramatic. Well, it's not. Because when you try so hard and it's never good enough and you're constantly told you didn't do that right, you missed this, and it is such a horrible feeling because then it just creates that foundation that nothing you do is good enough.
Chips away at your confidence completely, and it chips away in your trust and safety with that person.
Exactly. So when you were talking about resentment,
huge.
I am resentful of chores.
Yeah.
As an adult.
Yeah.
We were talking a little bit too about steps. I did just finally, like after 20 years, get a washer and dryer Saturday. So then I had to try to learn. It was interesting, Cam, or comical. Somebody should have been recording it. Instead of like just clicking and then pushing a button, this thing has like a like, I mean,
oh yeah,
it's like R2D2.
Yeah. They're very complicated.
Having to kind of learn how to do laundry again.
Yeah.
In a totally different way. So there are all these parts to these things that we automatically do without thinking through about, oh my goodness, my kid is their thoughts getting hijacked constantly, and I'm yelling at them that they missed something.
Here's the other really important point that brings up. When we dictate exactly how something needs to be done and the outcome of it, We are not teaching kids how to think critically. And then when they go to a different washer and they're like, well, these are the steps, they've never learned how to figure out another tool or another method, right? So when we're like, this is the way you do it, this wasn't done right, we're completely, once again, missing an enormous opportunity chores provide and teaching them that they can't be trusted to figure things out for themselves. So we're teaching the wrong lesson again.
And also, so many of our kids are really creative.
Ah,
I bet they could come up with better ways to get
and
things done.
absolutely. And I think here's what frustrates parents in a lot of things is that we have been doing it a long time. So we have developed our own very effective, efficient way of doing things, which is why it feels right to teach our kids. Look, I've experienced this. I've already gone through all the learning. I'm going to save you time and make it easier for you if you just do it this way. But here's what we're missing. The part that makes a chore actually interesting to a child is figuring it out on their own. And that might look really, really messy at first because they're experimenting and they don't know how to get from A to B in a straight line. They're going to go all over the place, and that drives us nuts. We're like, what are you thinking? Why would you do it that way? But the whole point is, when they learn, they slowly and each time start getting more and more effective in problem solving until they get a more effective way to A to B themselves. That is ownership. That is a sense of accomplishment. That builds confidence. That builds resilience. Letting them mess it up without judgment and getting in trouble, and helping them understand what worked and what didn't work and letting them try again. And you know what? When they get to do that, they actually take ownership of a task.
And what's also lovely about this conversation is you can go through it without the shame. It is a way of being like, oh, when you think of all the steps, which part of it is the hardest for you? Oh, okay. Which part is the grossest? You can even have like a list and go through it. What I recommend is going through it yourself and noting every single step.
Yes, because we will say go take out the trash. And that seems like a very simple, all I'm asking you is one simple task, just take the trash out. Because to us, we have again mastered the point A to B. For our kids, that is 97 micro tasks you have just asked them to do. You didn't ask them to do one task. You asked them to find a stop point and turn off your game that you don't want to turn off, which is a hard enough task as it is. Put it down. It's basically saying, put down that chocolate chip cookie and now come do eat that onion and enjoy it. So now they have to get the motivation to put down the chocolate chip cookie and eat an onion. That right there is where most of them get stuck to begin with. Then they have to get up and they have to walk across the room, and then they have to pull the trash bin out, and then they have to like pull it out, and it's so full and it's stuck and it's a pain and it like spills, and then they have to pull it out and they have to tie the thing. And there's so many tiny little steps that we don't think about that makes it feel very big. And if you're rolling your eyes going, oh my God, that's not a big deal, that's unfair because you have learned how to do it and they are learning how. So if we diminish what that task feels like to them, we are going to constantly get pushback because we have no empathy or understanding of what we're asking them to do.
Right. And nothing ever gets better. And if in fact, it doesn't just not get better, it actually gets worse. And also for neurodivergent kids, obviously social communication can be so difficult for them. So if we're not open and trying to figure out why this is hard, they're just going to shut down, they're going to melt down. And why would they tell us when they feel like we're not listening anyway? Like it doesn't matter, even if they said that, because it's not hard. Just do it. It'll take you a second.
Yeah.
That's
invalidating. That does not make it easier on them.
That does not make it easier.
No, it makes them feel shame for themselves, and it makes them feel very resentful and like you don't get it. So both of those feelings are not motivating feelings.
As far as executive functioning, even starting, I mean, that's an executive functioning. Task initiation.
That's huge. That's a
It's
hard one.
huge. It's how do you start this thing that feels impossible, that feels hard, that feels like you've started it before and you just got in trouble because you didn't do it good enough. Not only the executive functioning part, but also the shame attached.
Well, you have no motivation to push through and even try the executive functioning part. And I think this is another thing that parents, we need to understand, because we get upset with our kids for not prioritizing chores. And this is a very unfair thing to get upset about, because chores are an adult concern. We care about chores. We still don't like them, but we care about them because we take pride in our house and we feel more comfortable when things are clean. But now we're trying to tell our teen, who has so many more things that are more age appropriate to them to be concerned about and prioritize, to suddenly put our priority first. And we're not prioritizing what's important to them either. So we can't expect them to suddenly go, okay, I'm going to snap out of being a teenager and act like an adult now and suddenly have adult priorities. That doesn't work. So we have to understand, when we're asking them to do a chore, we are asking them to do a favor for us because we care about it and they don't. We are not going to make them want to do a chore because it's a chore, right? Or because we told them to. We can try. It's not going to work. So we need to say, okay, this, first of all, you are helping me do something that's important to me, even though I understand that it's not important to you and it probably won't be for another 30 years. We also have to understand that in order for them to do a task and have the motivation to stop something they love to do something that's not so fun, they have to have very strong motivation. And that motivation comes from something that makes them feel autonomous, in charge, makes them feel competent, and makes them feel like they belong. Those are the things. And typically, the way we approach chores does the opposite of all of those. So we make them push back more. So how do you make a chore more desirable? Well, first of all, make it about the skill. You're old enough now. This is so cool. You can learn the skill, and this skill is going to, this is something that you're going to have for life. And this makes you a more competent person. This enables you. This gives you free, right? So we're building up a skill that they're able to do. I did this with my daughter. She loves doing laundry because it was like I taught her at a young age to do her laundry, and she felt so grown up doing it. It felt awesome and rewarding. Did I tell her how to do it? I showed her originally, right? I gave her some suggestions. She figured it out. She now does it better than me because she has watched TikTok and knows all the right products and knows all the right. So she's taken that. The other thing is, make it feel good and belonging. So instead of going, you have to go do those chores on your own as a punishment, then they feel like a punishment, do it. Go, all right, family is going to clear the table. The dishes have to be washed, dried, and put away. Which do you want to do? And the reason this works beautifully is I now take the other one. So they almost feel like they're winning. Like I get to take the easier, the best chore of all of those. So now I feel a little dopamine rush of getting to pick. And then afterwards, thank you so much. That helps. So that was so helpful. I now feel good for contributing. I don't feel bad because I'm obligated to do this.
When you're going to give choice, another reason why that's a good idea is they're teaching you which one is better for them. What part of this chore works better for them because they're choosing it.
Yeah.
You're saying, well, which part of this do you want? My youngest, he would be okay with pulling the bag out of the can, but for his fine motor skills, me asking him to tie the part of the bag that you pull up, that wasn't going to work for him. And if I would approach chores this way, it would have been a nightmare because I'm like, what you have to it's going to all fall out if you don't tie that at the top, all this stuff, instead of, do you want me to do that part or do you want to do that part? That's what's so cool about it, because even if it's one part, that's awesome.
They're
because
building up the skill. And
you
this
can
is
build up the
where a
skill.
lot of parents go, well, that's coddling. People don't coddle in the real world. Again, we are building a skill. So we are not teaching them now that they just never have to do everything and everyone will do. We are creating an environment where they are actually open to learning this skill and we will expand that skill. It is not coddling and it's not how the real world works. It is how we build the skill. I want to make that so crystal clear. We have to look at it the bigger picture. This is the first step. This is not the only step, right?
Yes.
First step in building it.
And making it as visual as possible. Write it out, make a video, make images. All these things are possible when you know what the steps are. So you have to do it yourself, do all the steps, ask them like what part they want to do. But it's hard, especially with working memory. If you just say, go do this, your words are floating away in the air. Now, when you said do it together, that's awesome. You're making it more doable. What if it is one step? That's amazing. Let's build off that step. Also, there's so many different things you can do. Maybe you're teaching a child to wipe the counter or whatever that is. You can put like little, maybe even dry. I'm just coming up with all ideas right now. Like even a dry erase marker and showing them where to do it. So they're getting rid. And there's so many creative, neat ways to build those skills.
The other thing I love about this is also showing them the end game of where you want them to get there and leaving how they get there up to them. Don't tell them how to get to point A to point B. Let them figure it out. And again, it's going to be messy, really messy at first. It may take them 20 minutes to do something that should have taken 20 seconds. That's okay, because those 20 minutes are actually far more important than getting the tasks done, because they're learning in those moments. They're taking ownership in those moments. They're building up those connections. So letting them take time. If you want to use chores, those 20 minutes to do the chore is far more important than finishing the chore.
Exactly. And it's not going to be perfect.
No, it'll never be what you want because that's your preference.
Exactly. I love that. Cam, thank you so much
You're
for
welcome.
coming on and talking with me. I love speaking with you. Tell my audience how they can learn more about you and your services.
Yeah. So I have my podcast, Parenting Teens with Dr. Cam, and that comes out every week. And we talk about stuff like I just did an episode just on chores. So yes, this is a big one. And then you can follow me on Instagram at Dr. Cam Caswell. And that I'm on there every single day giving tips and strategies and aha moments and everything I can. And those are probably the two best places to find me and get my content and just learn how to parent a teen with less stress.
I will make sure to have all of your links. So everyone go down in the show notes and learn more about Cam. Okay. Well, thanks so much. And I'll see you soon. I'm sure.
Thanks, Holly. Absolutely.
Bye. If you found this podcast helpful, I greatly appreciate it if you could take a second to give it a 5-star review. With your positive feedback, I can continue bringing you free, valuable information. As an extra thanks to you, there are special gifts waiting for you in the show notes. You'll find links to free resources on supporting neurodivergent kids and teens with social interaction, emotional regulation, and more. So come on down to the show notes and get your free resources. Take care, and I look forward to seeing you next time.
All content provided is protected under applicable copyright, patent, trademark, and other proprietary rights. All content is provided for informational and educational purposes only. No content is intended to be a substitute for professional medical or psychological diagnosis, advice, or treatment. Information provided does not create an agreement for service between Holly Blanc Moses, Crossvine Clinical Group, the interviewee, Holly Blanc Moses LLC, and the recipient. Consult your physician regarding the applicability of any opinions or recommendations with respect to your symptoms or medical condition or the symptoms or medical condition of your family member. Children or adults who show signs of dangerous behavior toward themselves and/or others should be placed immediately under the care of a qualified professional.